Hi, my name's Rick Yates and I'm the Managing Director of ASX listed Island Resources Ltd. Today I'd like to share with you a little about the company and our progress towards a mill restart at the Sandstone Gold Project in particular. Before I do so, I'll just alert you to the disclaimers. Noting that several forward-looking statements are included in the presentation and that the presentation itself combines the results of probably 20-odd ASX releases, most of which are reasonably current. Right, we have two projects. The first is the 100% owned Sandstone Gold Redevelopment Project located in Western Australia. And the second is the more greenfields Barkley project located in the Northern Territory, both of which obviously are in Australia and therefore are Tier 1 jurisdictions. In terms of 2020 investment highlights, we're rapidly advancing a feasibility study on a standalone project at Sandstone, which is due to be completed at the end of the fourth quarter of 2020. We do have 10,000 sample assay backlog in the laboratories at the moment, which is threatening that completion timeframe. We're endeavouring to resolve that. And if not the late December 2020, then it'll be January 2021. The feasibility study will inform a restart decision for the mill, which exists on site. And this year the highlight has been an extremely successful 50,000 metre drill campaign, or 50,000 metres to date, completed at Sandstone, which has identified 5 new satellite deposits to go with the prior inventory. And we believe that that will certainly demonstrate a positive feasibility outcome come the end of 2020. As I mentioned, we also have a major holding in the Barkley project in the Northern Territory. That's a really exciting opportunity, and I'll touch on that briefly towards the end of the presentation. Just on the Sandstone Gold Project, we've got a 100% interest in about 180 square kilometres. Project is located about 400 kilometres northwest of Kalgoorlie and about 11 kilometres south of the village of Sandstone in the central goldfields of Western Australia. The project includes 2 fully permitted mining leases, and within those host a 600,000 tonne per annum gold mill and all associated infrastructure. Got a current 2012 JORC resource of about 560,000 ounces, which we're progressively adding to with deposit upgrades and the maiden resources on the new deposits as the year progresses. We're the only plant for 150 kilometres, and this offers toll milling opportunities and or consolidation opportunities throughout the district. Indeed, there's about 1.8 million ounces in 13 different deposits within 100 kilometres of the processing plant. We've completed due diligence on many of those and certainly keeping an eye open for consolidation opportunities to expand the inventory for what would then become a central processing hub. Updated resource estimates and pit optimisations are in progress, and they're being progressively released. I think to date we've released 3 of those. There's 2 more to follow shortly, to the first 2 of the 5 new deposits to follow shortly, and then we'll be progressively releasing the balance as that assay backlog is unlocked from the laboratories. This year has been really exciting. We're very fortunate to, pre-COVID, to raise substantial funding to be able to, for the first time really, to be able to systematically assess a multitude of targets. We assessed several deposit extensions, and we also assessed 14 prioritised exploration targets as part of that program. Initially, the program was slated to be 17,000 metres, predicated on the discovery of one new deposit. Ultimately, the phase 1 work identified 5 new deposits, and we had to significantly expand the drilling out to 50,000 metres to date, with some to follow later in the year. These 5 new satellite deposits we discovered are all located on permitted mining leases within 2.5 kilometres of the processing plant. And in red on that map is shown the 3 existing deposits, 2 Mile Hill, Shillington and Wirramina. A couple of deposit extensions, Goat Farm and Twin Shafts, which we've done some work on and awaiting assays on. And then the 5 new deposits being Plum Pudding, Old Town Well, Ridge, McLaren and McIntyre. A collection of 3 out there, which may in fact ultimately link up out in the banded iron formation terrain out there. Resource estimates have been prepared and progressively released, as I mentioned, and we've generated some substantial results. The pick of each of those is shown on that slide there. So we've had a lot of success, and we believe that those 5 new deposits together with the prior inventory will be more than adequate to lead to a successful feasibility outcome. This feasibility study is predicated entirely on open pit deposits, which we would plan to transition to 2 underground deposits, one relatively small and high grade, one very large and low grade. The second of these, the larger lower grade one, is hosted within a tonalite plug, which we've identified as being mineralised down to at least 700 metres, and it's open at depth. The plug is about 250 metres in strike length. It's about 90 metres in width, and plunges sort of sub-vertically through shallow northeast dipping basalt and banded iron formation stratigraphy. It includes a multitude of really long lower grade intercepts, the best of which was 500 metres at 1.4, and it remains open at depth below the quantified resource down to 500 metres. The base of the open pit is about 140 metres, and we've got a 480,000 ounce resource between 140 and 500 metres depth, where the drilling becomes sparser. But we do have an intercept below 500 metres, which is 160 metres at 2.13 from about 432 metres down hole. Metallurgy is fantastic, coarse gold, nuggety in places, so somewhat challenging for resource estimation purposes, but ideal for metallurgical purposes. 96% overall gold recoveries, including 60% gravity recovery at relatively coarse 125 micron grind size, low reagent consumptions in that. This project we'd originally parked up as being incompatible with the capacity of the existing processing plant, but we identified ore sorting as a possible means for changing that, and indeed we've had some exceptional results from 2 rounds of, or 2 commercial scale ore sorting campaigns, with about 93% of the gold reporting to 36% of the mass, including the fines component. The second of the deposits is shown in red on that isometric view, the tonalite deposit being shown in green. And it's basically where the tonalite intrudes a sequence of 3 banded iron formations, and we've just drilled out one of these, but we have about 6 or 8 ore positions around the margins of the tonalite. And this is where the gold has been sourced and fluids have been sourced from or through the tonalite and have deposited in the banded iron formation, classically pyrite replacement of magnetite horizons within the banded iron. The best intersection we had there is a true width intercept of 22 metres at 24 grams. So that gives you a sense of the sort of high grade nature, albeit relatively small volume of that initial deposit. But we're confident that once we get down there and mine that, that'll give us a drilling platform to be able to flesh out several of the other intercepts we already have around the margins of the tonalite, in certainly the upper and middle banded iron formation units. The third one is much deeper and remains undrilled at this stage. So looking forward at Sandstone, primary objective is to recommission that gold plant at the earliest opportunity, and primarily as a standalone operation in the first instance, but there's also an opportunity to consolidate proximal third-party deposits, as I mentioned. We would naturally be a central processing hub for the district, and there's certainly plenty of opportunities there. The refurbishment costs of the processing plant and infrastructure is 10.3 million. That's done to full BFS level by GR Engineering Services, a very reputable West Australian process engineering group. And the time frame to refurbish that is about 5 months. So it's a relatively near-term, low capital opportunity to get into production. In addition to that 10.3 million, obviously, there are other capital aspects such as mining contractor mobilisation, pre-production mining and working capital, which need to be built into that. And we're looking to funding that collection via a combination of debt and cash or equity. So we believe that the opportunity to fund that, certainly given the current sustained gold sentiment, is pretty favourable at the moment. Just touching briefly on the Barkley project in the Northern Territory, we've now got we've been granted or have listed for grant 10 exploration licences, aggregating about 3,500 square kilometres, that distributed along what's called the East Tennant Ridge, which was a Proterozoic basement ridge being identified by about $100 million worth of government pre-competitive exploration, one of the most heavily researched pieces of lithosphere on the planet. And they've identified that as having tier 1 potential for iron oxide copper gold deposits. We're not alone in seeing the merits of this project, with those tenements in the west immediately adjoining applications by Rio Tinto, and those in the east, particularly around on the Barkley area proper, with Newcrest mining. So that certainly provides some endorsement of the strategy and concept. We believe these are potential really high value targets, will have the potential to host high value targets beneath shallow Georgina Basin cover, very similar to the models that were applied in the Paterson province in Western Australia, or indeed beneath the Murray Basin in Northern Victoria. And it's a concept we've been following for a couple of years, and very pleased that the ballot outcome was certainly very much in our favour. So due to COVID travel restrictions at the moment, explorations are not anticipated to commence until 2021, and indeed the government is withholding grant on those until such time as COVID travel restrictions are lifted, or at our early election, which is certainly very generous, and but we're looking forward to getting stuck into those, and believe that's more of an incubator model, and we believe that gives us some real optionality, that project there. Just briefly touching on the capital structure, we've got a lot of shares on issue, so a consolidation is coming up at some time in the near future. The options, there's about 500 million of those 530 million that are in the money, and we've already had a considerable quantity converted, so the 530 is all that's left, and that's certainly keeping the cash balance in a healthy place. About 500 odd shareholders, still quite tightly held, the top 20 holding about 50%. Institutions holding about 11, and we would like to see that increase. And the directors well incentivised with about 6%. So as at the 31st of August, cash and investments are about 8.5 million, and the market cap at the 31st of August was about, we've been hovering around that 50 million mark for the last few weeks. Just as an appendix, the resource statement there, That photograph there was taken this year from up on the banded iron hosted McLaren deposit, up on top of the ridge. Really quite spectacular sunrise photo showing the resource definition drilling there. And look, I thank you very much for your time and interest in watching this presentation, and I look forward to meeting with you virtually as time permits. Thank you very much indeed. Cheers.